We got a minute yet.
Thank you. David Jackson.
We good?
You're good?
Yeah.
You ready? I got it. Just calm down.
Come on, let's go.
He's in a hurry.
Time's
He is.
time's money. Let's go.
All right, if everyone would mute their phones, please. And I'd like to welcome everyone to Beach Mountains, March 11th, Town Council meeting. I need a motion to call our meeting to order. Motion?
Second.
All right. I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Motion. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? Vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right. Cyclone.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Brother Bob. What's a little different today than it was last week, you know, everybody freezing down. I had a police escort, I don't feel as important today as I did last month.
You're always important.
We can do it every month,
I did see a guy in a convertible on the woods, I guess, that's kind of like seeing the groundhog. Scripture today is, there is a time for war and a time for peace. 189 years ago yesterday, one of the most famous battles in our nation's history was fought in San Antonio, Texas. And I'm sure if I said, remember the Alamo, y'all all know what I'm talking about. Texas at this time was not a state, it was an independent nation. And Santa Anna came in to take the Alamo. And the Alamo was a mission of the Catholic Church and had been for some reason discarded. It wasn't very big. But anyway, he arrived with 5,000 troops to attack the Alamo. The defenders were made up of just a few Texas soldiers, regular soldiers, some of the local guys of Mexican descent that joined with the defense of it. This was under Colonel Travis. And there were a few volunteers from Mississippi and Louisiana under the direction of Jim Bowie, of course, the famous Bowie knife. And Jim was not altar boy either. He's a pretty tough guy. One of the main reasons he came was not so much to help the people in San Antonio, but the week before he killed a guy in a fight at Natchez under the Hill on the Mississippi River, and he was being pursued not only by the sheriff but also a local lynch mob. So he grabbed a few friends and headed for San Antonio. And then the other group was a group of volunteers that was brought by David Crockett. And of course we know David was tough because he killed a bar when he was 3, I believe as the saying goes. And he came to help out the Texicans also, but he did not leave under good intentions. He was a congressman at the time, and he had lost an election. And he felt like they didn't treat him fairly, they cheated on him. So in his farewell speech at Congress, his final closing words was, all of y'all can go to hell, I'm going to Texas. So he took his boys to Texas with him. And they held out for 13 days. And finally on the 6th of March, where the final battle fell, but Santa Anna had demanded surrender 13 days before. And Colonel Travis' answer was fire a cannon at him. So this really ticked old Santa Anna off. And he raised the black flag, and he of course had a big band. He had one of the best armies in the world. And they played no quarter, meaning no mercy, that all will die. And so this, I don't know, I've always been fascinated by the Alamo. I remember as a young child in the hills of Mississippi reading about it, and then I'd go get on my stick horse and a cap pistol, and I'd always go and rescue them there in time. But I always wanted to go. And I finally got to go visit Alamo. I've been back several times since. It fascinates me, but I could not get over how different it was when I had it pictured. From movies and all, I had pictures of a great big place way out in the middle of nowhere. And actually, it's in the middle of San Antonio. Now the town has grown up all around it. And it's not near as large as I thought it would be. There was a movement a few years ago by the PC, the political correct people, to try to kind of downplay the role of the Alamo. That they didn't say, well, this was a bunch of Southern white guys is all it was. If you go into the Alamo, they have a list of the defenders there. Over half of them have Spanish surnames, Rodriguez and Cruz and all that. And so it was made up of guys from Texas. This is their country. So they were with the good old boys from the South that lived there too, and they were all defending their homes. And so after, people take one look at the defenders there, that kind of killed that movement there. The men from out of state that came were called Texicans, Texicans, not Texan, but Texicans. And that's a combination of American and Texas. The ones that lived in Texas that defended, of course, they were called Texans. And then there were some Americans. But these guys that went to defend were Texicans, and they played a real role in Texas getting the independence. There's an inscription on the wall in the Alamo that I think pretty well describes why it's these guys were able to hold out like they did. They were all a bunch of pretty rough, tough guys, but they believed in what they said. And this inscription said, "Be silent, friend, for here heroes died to blaze a trail for other men." Legend has it before the battle that Colonel Travis took his sword out and drew a line on the ground. And he said, "All right, anybody that wants to leave can leave." He said, "The one who wants to stay with me and fight and die, stay." Go over the line. So it said 179 out of the 180 crossed the line to fight, and one guy slipped out. But according to legend, old Davy Crockett was the first one to cross the line. He said he got back a running start and jumped across it so he could be first. And then he went and helped his friend Jim Bowie. Bowie was dying during the whole time of some fever. But he helped Bowie across the line so he would go also. And they, of course, all died. But you feel almost like this is a shrine or a sacred place when you go. Of course, it was a church at one time. But the people that fought there, I think the greatest tribute that I've seen was, sorry, I got in my head, was a movie John Wayne made called The Alamo. I believe it's back in the probably early 60s. And before they made it, the night before, they had all the crew members out at the place where they're staying. And John Wayne had a priest come in and bless the camp there where they were and ask for blessings on the movie there. So the movie kind of had some religious tenets to it. And one of the interesting things about the movie then when it started, one of the characters from Tennessee uttered, talking the night before they came, said, "There ain't no afterlife," said, "that's just a bunch of fairy tales for kids." And one of his compatriots there said, "I can't change your mind. So I know you're not going to believe it," but said, "I believe it is the afterlife." And he said, "I believe that evil will eventually overtake good." But the Alamo, to show you the way it influenced people, and the term "Remember the Alamo," about a year later, Sam Houston, the Alamo. And so he met Santa Anna at the Battle of Goliad in Texas. And their battle cry during the whole thing was "Remember the Alamo," and they routed Santa Anna and all the troops. And two of Sam Houston's soldiers captured Santa Ana, and he had a woman's dress and a wig on. He was trying to slip away and get back to Mexico. So these old boys started to shoot him. And they said, "No, we better take him to Sam Houston and see what he says about that." So Sam Houston said, I said, "Don't shoot him." He said, "If you shoot him, he'll be a martyr." He said, "We're going to send him back to Mexico with his tail between his legs, dragging us like a coward there." So all through the years, that's where, remember the Alamo, came from there. Would you bow your heads, please? Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this beautiful place and all the beautiful people here. We just so thankful for it. We ask you to be with our President Don, our Governor Jesse, with our Mayor Werner, with Bob, our Town Manager, and all the council. We pray, Lord, you'll be with our military, our firefighters, EMT, law enforcement. And we ask, Lord, to continue to bless the United States of America, Beach Mountain. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cyclone. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. When I became mayor, I said I wanted to change some things up and have some positive comments and have some folks come in that have never been to Beach Mountain. And I don't think we've ever had a president from Lees McRae College attend our council meeting. And I think it's important that, we do community outreach and we have relationships with our neighbors. And I met Dr. Lee King a few years ago. For whatever reason, we liked each other, so we became friends. And I invited Dr. King to come up today to let us know where Lees McRae is before he became president, direction they're going in, and how the storms affected them, and just a general pulse of what Lees McRae provides to our community. Dr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, members of the council, good afternoon. Thank you for having me, and to those that are citizens that are assembled here, thank you very much for allowing me to come and speak. And thank you for putting me at the front of the agenda today. My son and the Avery County baseball team are playing in Madison tonight at 6 o'clock. And I'm trying to get there for the first pitch. So Aaron texted me before the game that he's moved from the cleanup spot to the leadoff spot. And he's built like me. And I said, I don't know how many bases you're going to steal between being the leadoff hitter, but I hope to get there to see him do the leadoff. Before I give you some updates, I want to tell you how grateful the college is for the town of Beach Mountain and how grateful we are for our relationship, especially with Beach Mountain's Resort. As you know, we have an academic program in the ski industry business that we would not be able to do if it were not for our relationship with the resort. We have a fully functioning classroom here, and our students are here all the time. But today, the big news is, today through Saturday, our ski and snowboard team that practices and competes here at Beach are competing in the national championships, and they are the 3-time national champions, and they're defending their 3-time champion. That's right, thanks for putting that up. They're at Mount Bachelor and on the West Coast right now, and so there's links on our website and our social media about the live streams that are going on with that, so I hope you all will cheer on our ski and snowboard team as they're representing not only the college, but those young people are representing Beach Mountain really, really well, and we're grateful and appreciative of the partnership that we have. I think you all know this, that the college is Avery County's largest employer. We have nearly 300 employees at Lees McRae, and our economic impact on the local community is almost $100 million a year. So a strong Lees McRae is a very strong member, very strong and vital to the overall health, not just of Avery County, but Beach Mountain and Watauga County as well. And it's my pleasure to inform you that the college is thriving, the college is doing really well. I'm completing my 7th year as president at Lees McRae. Thankfully, we've had a great 7 years, and the board and I have worked on a long time that I'm going to continue to be the president of Lees McRae, because we're incorporating and experiencing an incredible amount of growth and momentum right now that we want to continue to have happen. So this year we opened with our largest enrollment ever. The trends for next year look even brighter. So on our horizon right now, despite the work that we did this summer of opening the $30 million renovation of our historic commons, the historic Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina buildings, and the acquisition of the former Grandfather Home for Children campus that's now doubled the physical footprint of Lees-McRae, we are looking now at what the next level of our growth is. So we're planning for additional residence hall development. And we also have architects that are working right now on designing a new science building for us, as well as a new and expanded May Wildlife Rehabilitation Center. 1/3 of our students study in the science programs at the college. So it is important for us in this next phase of our growth to focus on a brand new science building to support our faculty and students in those programs. And our wildlife rehabilitation program is also a gem of a program for us. We just actually are expanding a partnership with NC State where third-year veterinary students at NC State are actually coming to Lees-McRae to live and study because we're the only place that they can come and work with wildlife patients. So it's a unique partnership that we're continuing to develop there as we look to the long-term horizon for the college. Again, from an enrollment and a finance perspective, the college is thriving. We're having a record fundraising year. Our gift receipts, cash gifts to the college this year are going to be over $10 million. That is double what it has ever been at any point in the past. And I attribute that to the momentum that we have as well as the growth and the way that people are just responding to the good and positive things that are happening at Lees-McRae. I want to thank the members of the council and the local governments and especially Bob from the public safety perspective as well. We are blessed at the college to be able to continue business because of this community's comprehensive way they came together to support our rebuilding and the infrastructure in the town and then the community post Hurricane Helene. We had a significant amount of damage. The college was obviously very affected. We have 84 buildings at Lees-McRae. 37 of them had damaged roofs. We had extensive damage to our Elk Valley Preserve, which is down off of Puckett Road between the college and Elk Park, and huge tree damage on campus. Luckily, we have a Cadillac quality insurance plan, so many of our losses are going to be covered fully by insurance as the claims are continuing to pay. Our total order of magnitude on our insurance claim is about $10.5 million of the physical damage that happened to the community. But we were shut down for 35 days as we sent our students remote. There was no way with the town of Banner Elk losing their infrastructure that we were able to continue to support students. So we were able to quickly pivot to online learning and focus our efforts in on rebuilding campus. But I am incredibly grateful to the local governments, Beech Mountain included, for everything you all did to help get infrastructure rebuilt and reopened so that we could reopen. Because Lees-McRae being closed for beyond that 35-day period of time would have had a major impact on the local economy, local employment, and other things. We were able to keep our people fully employed, fully paid, our payroll and everything continued. And that's another indicator of how strong the position that the college is in right now. We're grateful to be part of this community, grateful for the community support that we receive. And Widener, I'm very grateful for your personal friendship and for inviting me to come and address the council and let you all know the good news and things that are happening at the college. And Bob has become a good, close personal friend too. And I assure you that we will continue to work to make sure that we have a strong, vital, healthy relationship between the college and the town of Beech Mountain and all that you do. So I'll be happy to respond to any questions you may have, but it was a pleasure and an honor to come and talk to you today.
Lee, thank you for attending, and good luck with your son's baseball game today.
Thanks very much. We'll root on the Avery Vikings this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Dr. King's done an amazing job at Lees-McRae from where they were a few years prior to him joining Lees-McRae and the direction and the vision that he has. He's done an outstanding job. I'd also like to make a couple quick announcements. Beech Mountain Historical Museum or Society, they ranked 5th out of 10 for the best small town museums in the United States. They recently received this award, and I'd like to congratulate all the folks that made this happen and those that contribute to the Historical Society. This past weekend, the Beach Mountain Resort had a cancer awareness fundraiser. It's called Runs for Buns. And this was initiated after the general manager's wife, unfortunately, died of colon cancer. So it's colon cancer awareness. And they ski for the day, raise money. You get so many dollars per run or donations that they make. And David was over the auction and participated in that. I'd like to thank Talia Freeman for all of her hard efforts putting this together. And we raised right at $110,000. So it was a job well done. Also, I like just to briefly mention in our last meeting that we had last Friday, there's been some question about the $3.8 million that the town was awarded. And how we got this money was several months ago, I had lunch with the Speaker of the House in North Carolina and requested $12 million for money that we needed for hurricane relief. Unfortunately, these funds will not be available until after the budget is voted on in July. And his assistant called me about a week after the meeting, excuse me, he said, the money won't be available till after we vote on the budget. It may not be 12 million, but I would venture to say it's going to be closer to 12 than it is anything else. I feel confident that we're going to receive what we asked for. But his assistant said, here's another option that we have for Beach Mountain. And the State Treasurer's Office can loan Beach Mountain $3.8 million. And it's a 5-year note. It's 0% interest. And the nice part of this is we turn the receipts into FEMA. FEMA will reimburse us for the $3.8 million, and then we pay North Carolina back. So it's free money that the town got. So I'm honored to be able to share this with you, and our council works hard to look for crumbs wherever we can. All right. In saying that, public comment. This.
Excuse me, it was nowhere for me to sign in. I have something.
Okay. All right. Would you like to sign in?
Sure.
I'll take it.
Another thing our town manager does.
Yeah.
Okay. Public comment. This is a time for the public to address their elected officials on issues not on the agenda. The town council is interested in hearing your concerns. However, speakers should not expect council action or deliberation on items brought forth during the public comment period. First person that would like to speak is Mr. David Jackson. David, you'll give us your name and address, please.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Jackson. Excuse me. My address is 606 Northridge Drive down in Boone. I am here today representing the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce. And just want to take a moment to thank you not only for your leadership over the last few months. You all have been a model to many in having to deal with the difficulties that you did, but doing so in such a precise way for the benefit of not only your community, but for everybody else. I know that you all had a lot to deal with up here on September 27th. I'm sure you have heard from others how difficult it was to hear about what you were going through and not be able to reach you. So know the entire community had you in this community on our hearts on that day and the many days afterward until we were able to get word that things were progressing here. The purpose of me coming today really is to thank you for your quick adoption of the resolution that's in your consent agenda today, supporting or calling for the continued support of small businesses at the state and federal level. I think we all understand the tight pressure that's been put on our small business community, not only here in Beach Mountain, but really throughout all of Western North Carolina. So what our hope is, we went to the County Commissioner's budget retreat a couple of weeks ago and asked them to make a similar a resolution, which they adopted on Tuesday. And we told them that we would be following up with all of the other municipalities. So you all are number 2. Thank you very much for adopting this. But for what that will mean moving forward, our intention is to be able to trumpet to our state legislators as well as our federal partners that our entire community is bought into supporting small business and finding ways, whether that's monetary or technical assistance that can be provided to those businesses, that they should prioritize that. And they've got the weight of our local governments encouraging them to do that. Whether this yields anything or not, time will tell, but hopefully that sign of unity is just another step forward for all of us here throughout Watauga County and Avery County and everybody that's been impacted by this, to know that local government has the backs of small business in any way that is possible, and sometimes that's just passing along an encouraging word. So thank you for that. I can tell you that we at the Boone Area Chamber have partnered with UNC Health Appalachian on a series called actually, I forget the name of the series right off the top of my head. That's fantastic. But I promise it's awesome. Messages of Hope. I knew I would get there. So Messages of Hope was created to tell some of the kind of unsung stories of the disaster. Our first episode was on Valley Cruces School being repurposed into a few different buildings with the help of the community after that school was lost during the flood. Episode 2 is on the Beech Mountain story. So we were up here a couple of weeks ago and interviewed Bob, Jimmy, a few others to help tell the story of how things transpired. But really the message, and Art, I believe you were the one that said it, was that this story is about people. And I think you'll see that reflected when this comes out. We're about a week away from releasing it. Appreciate everybody that's been submitting content for it. But what we hope is that story shows how well you rallied around one another to get yourselves to the point where you could get off the mountain and get the help up here that you needed. So in closing, you all are an inspiration to so many throughout our county, and it's been a pleasure to be here with you today, and certainly we appreciate you signing on to this resolution as quickly as you did. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. Ms. Bell?
Please.
Yes, ma'am. Give your name and your address, please.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm Roseanne Bell. I live at 707 Charter Hills Road. And what I'm here to talk about is that this town has a lot of rather stringent trash pickup regulations, but you have no accommodation for people who are disabled. And it's a hardship for me and for others to comply. It's very difficult. I have to rely on neighbors to take my trash out to the container on the street. And in the winter, that's almost impossible because they're all gone. So I would like to propose that the town adopt some kind of accommodation for this, for disabled people with the trash pickup. And I would be happy to contribute to writing that if you would like. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, that concludes public comment. Thank you, David. Item 6, the consent agenda. I need a motion to accept the consent agenda. Motion. Second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. New business. This is stormwater analysis and presentation. I need a motion to accept stormwater analysis and presentation.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Chief, will you briefly describe what this is, please?
Yes.
Review what this is.
Yep. Mayor and council, we discussed this back in February 11th meeting when we talked about a stormwater utility. And you had heard from a resident that had ongoing chronic stormwater issues, if you recall. And you directed us to take a look at what can be done. In North Carolina, there is an option of creating a stormwater utility, which, much like your water utility, is an enterprise fund that is set up under state statute that allows you to secure funding and create a utility that then addresses stormwater townwide over the long term. It's rather expensive to do major stormwater improvements. The town has never embarked on this. What we've done, and as we reported last month, is the town spends roughly about $200,000 a year out of the general fund, and that's replacing culverts, unclogging culverts. There's really no stormwater improvements. That if a culvert was there for 40 years and it rotted out, we're replacing it, but we're not moving it, we're not improving it, and we all know where the issues are. Fox Grade Palo, every time it rains, it washes out, and we go down there and replace it. So this option gives you the ability to create a dedicated funding source that would address long-term, over many, many years in the town, a stormwater utility. It's not complicated, but there's a process that you have to go through. There's an analysis that you have to go through. Anytime that you're talking about a utility, enterprise fund, fees, taxes, the state statute requires this process to be followed. So what did we do? We reached out to Withers Ravenel. That's an engineering firm that actually was here in 2009 and did an analysis of some of the stormwater issues that the town experienced at the time. I wasn't here, but the town brought them in to look at specific areas where we were having problems with every time it rained. So they did an initial analysis. I reached out to them. Actually, Daniel Davis was my point person, and they put together a proposal. Now, all this proposal is an analysis and a presentation to you within the next 60 days on what the stormwater utility would look like, what the funding mechanisms may be available, and what their projection is long-term on setting this up. You're under no obligation other than paying them this fee for this exercise. It takes about 3 years for a stormwater utility to be established, so this isn't something that can be done quickly. The decision today basically is, do you want to go forward with some engineering analysis of what the issue is, how it could be set up, what the possible funding is, or this is not an insignificant sum, or is this something that you would rather not do, and we'll put it on the shelf and address it later.
So what benefit will the mountain receive in the next, I think you said maybe 3 years before this program is initiated? Is that the length of time it takes to establish it from?
Yeah, it's about 24 to 36 months.
So will there be, prior to the 24 months, is there going to be any benefit or anything that we can do that's proactive that's going to come out of this analysis that will enhance our stormwater?
Directly, no. What we are asking this engineer to do is take a look at the existing issue, the existing problem, not in great detail, not doing surveying and analysis. They probably would meet with you, meet with Daniel, and look at historical records where we always experience problems. What we're asking them to do is, it's required by statute to begin the process of advising you on whether you want to do a utility. So this would not put any pipes in the ground, wouldn't move anything, wouldn't change anything. I would propose that we continue funding our maintenance. This is how I term what we're doing now for stormwater. We're replacing culverts. We're actually in the middle of, this big FEMA thing. But this would not dig a hole and make changes. What this would do would begin giving you the option or the information you would need to make a decision.
So we would start building, provided that we proceed with this and use a 24-month period, we would start a utility fund And so rather than taking funds out of the general fund, we would pay for these repairs, mitigation, whatever, through this fund, correct?
Yes, if you choose to do a stormwater utility, those funds, just like the water utility, are you can only use those for stormwater improvement and mitigation. Can't be used for anything else. Unlike the general fund today, as we go through the budget process, if you had a shortfall or if you wanted to reallocate those funds, you could spend those funds any way you so choose. On the utility, you cannot.
So how do you
Will this
build?
be,
Sorry, go ahead.
will this be, this study, is it going to provide a report that's not gonna increase a taxpayer increase in water or utility for
No,
this?
the stormwater utility is much like the water utility. It can be funded in a number of different ways, and that's what we need to look at, what I would think you'd want to look at. It is a designated source of funding, and it's either a stormwater utility fee, it is a could be a direct tax. There's a number of ways to fund the utility. And that is what this report would provide to you. It would tell you what the problem is, what the funding mechanisms are, how much funding would be anticipated, and long-term, what can be
But part of
done.
this will go back into public services to try and figure out how to mitigate any type of increase.
That would be the intent of the utility.
Okay.
That would not be, we would be removing well, we're not doing any improvements now. We would be doing maintenance. Obviously, we would transfer the maintenance into a utility if it existed.
Okay. So until you build the kitty up, how do we make this improvement?
Well, most of the effort for that 24 to 36 month period is doing the analysis, the engineering, and determining what the long and short term costs are and what the improvements need to be. Most of the upfront costs and most of the upfront timing is to determine what the issue is and what can be done to improve it.
Would this be looking at future growth? Because we've had several presentations about, increasing the number of homes and so forth up here.
It would, and actually that's part of the problem that we have. The issues that you're familiar with, localized flooding and the problems that you heard last month at public comment, are because of growth that's occurred uphill and changed the flow of water. What used to be a vacant property of woods that had sheet flow and absorption and things like, is now a house with a driveway and a culvert, and now it's taking that water down to the adjacent property. So yes, it does address the problem. It's gotten worse because of development, but more importantly, I think what this is going to do is going to give you the information you would need to make a decision. Do you even want a utility? There's public hearings that are required. There's substantial analysis and funding, much like what we did for the bond issue. This would give you that information to make a decision.
So what I'm hearing you say is that this is just a box to tick on the way to becoming a utility, to establishing a utility.
It is, but it's even before that. When we talked about it last month, we weren't even sure, you weren't even sure you wanted to do a public utility for stormwater. And really, there's, at least in my opinion, it's difficult to make that decision without some numbers, some facts,
Information.
what the schedule is, what it entails, what the impact to the public might be. And so what this does is bring you that information so that in 60 to 90 days you can have a discussion and with that information and make a decision, whether you even want to go forward or not.
The other aspect is, why couldn't this just be a line item in our budget?
Well, we're not. That's the
Well,
problem.
now we're just maintaining, but in the future, if we had a study and certain
You could.
repairs, it could just come out of general fund as a line item.
You could.
So why do a utility versus that?
Well, a utility is a dedicated funding source. You would be hard pressed to sell me as a taxpayer to increase anything that I pay to the town if I thought that you or the next group of individuals could use it to build a Ferris wheel. So in the reason towns and cities do a stormwater utility is because they've identified there's a stormwater issue and they want to have a dedicated funding source that can't be used for anything else. It's long-term. Even if we had the funding, we couldn't fix everything in,
No, I mean,
in 5-10 years.
I know it's a whole other story,
But and that's exactly what you need to discuss and hear from the residents and decide, but I don't know how you do that without information. We've exceeded my ability on this. I don't know how much it would cost, what it would entail. I do know how long it takes. And this firm is the group that we're recommending. If you want to go forward, this is the group to bring you that information.
and this group has some prior data, correct?
Yeah, that's why I chose them. They actually did the 2009 analysis study on some localized flooding issues here. We could go to somebody else, but this was the firm that seemed to have some local knowledge.
So as I read through this, this is kind of like going to give us a macro view of here are the problems within the town, and here's what some corrective action suggestions would be, and then that's going to help us to kind of take a look at how should we fund that, and should it be a utility or should it not?
Correct. Yep.
Any further questions? Need a motion, I need a vote. If you guys want to move forward with this analysis, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. 7-1 passes. Item 7-2, I need a motion to accept the contract for engineering and design services.
Motion.
Need a second? Second. Chief, would you briefly?
Mayor, on this one, it's West Consultants, who is engineer that we have selected through a competitive RFQ process to meet federal guidelines. We would like to engage West Consultants to do 3 projects here. As you all know, we experienced damage to the utility, to the water and sewer lines, mostly on the Pond Creek watershed during Hurricane Helene. We have to have engineering, design, detailed design plans that have to be permitted and then sent through the state. And I told you that would probably be about a 2-year process. This is the first step of hiring an engineer. The engineering fees are eligible for reimbursement through FEMA. I can't tell you if we will, but they're eligible, and we've done the procurement to make sure that everything we're doing is eligible through FEMA. The second item is damage to the sewer plant. Again, it requires an engineer that's licensed to do that. West Consultants is actually an engineering firm that has designed repairs to the sewer plant before. That again is reimbursable by FEMA. The third piece is, and actually it's a substantial piece of the pie, is improvements, not repairing, but improvements to the utility, and we're calling the 2023 utility improvement project. And that's a continuation of what we've done and are currently doing, replacing water and sewer lines, repairing the Grassy Caps sewer line that it has infiltration. As pointed out in my memo to you, those funds are available through the state, through another funding mechanism through the DEQ. So this one contract will apply to all 3 of those projects that need to be done. It's our first step. And the only thing I need to mention is that Ford reviewed the proposal and wants to make sure that any motion you make is contingent upon his final sign-off of the contract. not so much the contract for scope of service, but all the 13 pages of FEMA requirements that go behind it. So I would, if you choose to approve this, I'd like you to make that part of the motion.
Does 4 have an excuse absent?
He's late. He's coming.
Is this all approved with our FEMA consultants that we've been working with?
It is.
Okay.
So I need if there's no further questions, all in favor of item 7.2, the contract for engineering design with the contingency that our town attorney approves the contract. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, same sign. Item 7.2 passes. Item 7.3, we've discussed this. This resolution, I need a motion to accept the resolution of intent to annex the Cherry Gap property.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
You want me to discuss it?
Yeah, if you want briefly.
Mayor and council, this is the 35 plus or minus acres that the town purchased off Cherry Gap for a debris storage site for the material that we're going to dredge out of Buckeye Lake. Most of that property is, well, not most, about half of it is in the town, the other half is outside the town in Watauga County. And the town planner, Preston Yates, has prepared the resolution to begin the annexation process of bringing that town-owned property into the town limits. And he's here tonight if you've got any questions.
Any questions?
No.
Yeah, it's pretty cut and
Pretty
dry.
cut and dry.
We've discussed this for the past
Yeah.
How many months?
couple of meetings.
First, I'd like to welcome our town attorney to the meeting.
There he is.
Excuse me.
All in favor of accepting the resolution of intent to annex Cherry Gap property? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Item 7.3 passes. 7.4. This is, I need a motion to accept the capital budget ordinance.
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Chief, you want to briefly?
Mayor, as you know, the town was a recipient of a $3 million cash flow loan through DEQ that can be only used for the utility improvements. And then there was a $200,000 increase for administrative fees, which is actually a grant. So this is a budget ordinance that begins to track those monies. And I'll talk a little bit about this in my report, but last month I told you that we would show the town finances as if there had not been a hurricane, and we show you the budget normally, and then we would account for all the millions of dollars of revenue and expenses separately, so that we had a better idea of where we stood on our day-to-day operations as well as our disaster. This is the beginning of that. So this is a specific to the $3.2 million from DEQ, and this ordinance allows us now to bring it. It's similar to a budget amendment in the general fund. And what this does allows us to show the revenue of $3.2 million, and then you authorize, if you see the rest of the resolution, you authorize the finance director and myself to expend those funds.
So all this will be kept separate
Yes.
from
Yes, ma'am.
general fund? Okay.
And I'll speak a little bit more to that when we get into my report, where we've done that elsewhere. But this particular item is to only address that $3,200,000.
Have we drawn down this money at all yet, or?
No, and I'll explain. Well,
Okay, wait for your report.
we're collectively bringing in some money so that we can repair Lake Buckeye, and I'll go through that in detail in a little bit.
Gotcha. So the accounting with FEMA on this type of stuff, where does that end up?
It's a
I mean-
nightmare.
At best.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, but if we're doing all this separately, then from general fund and all that kind of stuff, then we at least have a clear, semi-clear path. with FEMA on it, or
in a-
is this all the waiting game?
It's a waiting game, and in a perfect world, and what my intention is to do the roughly $27 million worth of damages we've got to repair to the town, and at the end of the day, be made whole by mostly FEMA and the state. That's the goal. And getting there is I won't say it's difficult, it's very tedious. And as you'll see, we're bringing in millions of dollars from various areas to begin the repair process because we have to wait on FEMA to reimburse us. And as we've discussed many meetings now, we have $27 million of estimated repairs need to be done. We have a $10.5 million annualized budget, and we've got to run the town. You do the math, we can't do the work. So we were bringing in dollars wherever we can find them, and then Steve Smith, our finance director, is accounting for that separately, and even detailing that separately, because this $3.2 million that we're talking about today can only be used for the utility. I can't go repair a road, for instance, with it. And then as we go through the process with FEMA, as reimbursements come into the town, we begin repaying some of these outstanding loans. But part of this is a grant, which will be money that the town will be able to keep.
Okay.
I know it's not clear, because it didn't sound clear to me.
So it's important, I think we brought it up several times, that the patience of it all, because I know, people are upset that things aren't getting done quickly, but we're trying to make sure that we're not with a big bill at the end of all of this that we can't pay back, because what is the consequence of that? Well, if we don't have the funds, then we have to increase taxes, and I'm sure you wouldn't like that. So we need to follow the lead of our town manager and the patience of everyone, just to, be patient and let things go through its natural course of getting done.
We'll dwindle down our cash flow in our general fund if we start paying for these expenditures without having the approval from FEMA. So it is a slow, tedious process, but it will get done. Any further questions? All in favor to accept item 7.4?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Item 7.4 passes. I need a motion for item 7.5 to call for a public hearing on a proposed commercial rezoning. This is property owned by the Elder family and is behind the Pinnacle. I need a motion to accept for a public hearing.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Mayor, this will be heard, assuming you pass it on next council meeting, April 8th. We'll have a public hearing where the public can weigh in on this rezoning. The town planner has given you a full packet in your agenda. I would encourage anyone in the public that's interested in this to take a look at that packet. It's very comprehensive from A to Z. This is the agenda item today is to set a public hearing.
Correct. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, Chief, you're up.
All right, a couple things. Well, I had promised, and you had asked, we changed the water rates last July when we did the budget, and we had planned to do a 90-day update, predominantly on where we stood, if you remember, where we stood in the utility. We wanted to make sure that that change in rate structure didn't adversely affect the revenues of the utility. At 90 days, I told you we didn't have enough information to make an analysis, and I promised you I'd see you back in like November, December, and then we got a storm. So this is the 8th month report, and
Excuses.
I know, and you won't like my conclusion with it, but basically, again, we changed the rates in July to, if you recall, three reasons. We needed to encourage conservation. We wanted to reduce the non-use bills. Those are the residents, mostly part-time, who were gone, and they were paying the $54.40 monthly rate for 3,000 gallons of water, and they were using none. And part of the problem we had is when we activated conservation rules, it was really hard to get people that use 0 gallons a month to conserve. So that was one of the issues. And then the number one to me was to fund the utility. So you reduce the monthly base charge from $54.40 to $45, and you began charging per gallon on a sliding scale. The more gallonage you use, the more expensive that gallon got to encourage conservation. And the 3,000 gallon, that was a slip, 3,000 gallon limit was a target where we wanted to come in about the same. So the results are in after 8 months, and the funding level of the utility increased 12.36%. We had a 10% target, so we exceeded that by about 2.5%. So that was good. As important, we withdrew 12.5 million gallons of water less in those 8 months from Buckeye Lake compared to the previous year, 8 months under the old rate schedule. If you'll take a look at, if you want to, at page 95 in your packet, you'll see the utilities report for February, and you'll see that in February we withdrew 3.5 million gallons less than we did the February before. Now that's actual raw water coming out of the lake, which right now is very important to us because our lake has been severely impacted. Unfortunately, what we haven't seen is a measurable reduction in gallons consumed. And you would think that those two things don't go together, but we know what we draw out of the lake. We know what we treat. We have some loss there because we have some wastewater in the treatment process. And then we know what we've metered and sold. And so we had expected to see, we had hoped to see a decrease, measurable decrease in our consumption, which was actually what was sold. And if you look at the finances and the fact that we came in 12.3% higher for those 8 months, it correlates the fact that we're not seeing a measurable reduction in consumption. So how do I explain that? Part of the reason, and Mr. Davis, our utility director, he's a strong proponent of this one. I'm okay with it. You've put tens of millions of dollars in the ground, replacing pipes, fixing leaks. Certainly some of this reduction in what we're taking out of raw water and not seeing the consumption change at the meter is due to reduction in leakage. And that's a reflection of what you put into the ground and what we're continuing to put in the ground. I don't think it answers it all, but what we haven't seen, and it's probably because we haven't had enough time, only 8 months, but we haven't seen a measurable consumption on the end user's meter like we had hoped to with conservation. So we're saving water at the lake end, that's really what we want to do. We believe we have some anecdotal information that shows we're leaking less, which hopefully, because
With all this money we spent.
you've put all that money in the ground. Well, we haven't got the trifecta. We haven't got the third leg of that stool of conservation. So what I do know from being in town hall is that when the water bills go out, we get a lot of calls of people who have leaks. They don't shut their water off when they leave. They have huge leaks. And those are being caught sooner. Those are being addressed quicker. And so that is also reducing our loss. Unfortunately, it's a shock to the system, to our customers, that are getting those bills, because now the per gallon rate, when you use 20, 30, 50,000 gallons in a month, it's more than a mortgage payment. So we may need to address that going forward, but for now, my conclusion is that we just need some more data on the consumption piece. And I wouldn't recommend a change to our commercial. We had left commercial the same, and we had said we'd come back and take a look at that if there was an issue with the utility. There is not. So instead of, stirring it a little bit more, let's leave it the way it is and look at a 12-month analysis come June or July. And that's my report.
But you're starting to find a trend on that, right? With the amount of full-time residents versus water versus,
Well,
it's all starting to kind of,
we see it, we don't see a trend on conservation across the board, but what I do hear is the customers who were using no water for 3-4 months are happy because they're paying a $45 fee and they're not paying for water they didn't use. So, that piece, that just was logical. What I don't see is the conservation piece, and I don't know why. And maybe we just haven't had enough time. I shouldn't say enough. There's a number of people who are getting really high bills, and those will encourage conservation. Obviously, that's the purpose of the rate structure. I would caution all of our customers that in our town ordinance, it says that if you plan to be away from the house for 3 days or more, you're required to turn off your outside customer shutoff. That's not happening, these people that are getting thousands of dollars worth of bills because of internal leaks would have been prevented if that had happened. So, anyways, I really don't have a conclusion other than to give you a report of where we stand and ask you to give us another, 90 days to take a look at it.
Are more people visiting the mountain? Is there any correlation of number of people on the mountain versus?
Yes. Well, the correlation is in the dollars that we see. Our radio read meters is about 50% of our meters. We can tell real time if they're turning. This is a very busy for occupancy winter. So we've had a lot of water go through the system. We now go into a slower period of time, which we need, and then we'll see, summertime how that plays out.
Last year when we discussed this, we had a couple of residents that were exceeding 50,000 gallons a month. Have you seen those continue or reduce or?
Those have gone away. The ones who were actually consuming that water, and they were few. There wasn't that many. They have stopped. The ones we see now are due to leakage, and the house is vacant for a period of time. A leak is created. It can be anything from a running toilet to an underground leak, and those are not being identified quickly. And we actually have had two reports of vandalism, where someone's turning on their outside spigot and letting it run. And that's very difficult for the homeowner, so they're making a police report, making a claim to their homeowner's insurance. But that's, we've got two of those that appear to be legitimate. So to your point, I don't want to identify anybody, but the people who were using it and filling their hot tub every day and changing it for every rental, those seem to have stopped.
I mean, can you not get to combat folks with the vandalism, can you not get a water turn off under your house where it's secure and you can't get to it?
I assume you could.
Yeah, most people do.
but normally you could get the alarm from the town when,
Well, if you turn the
When it
spigot on in
starts.
the morning, we're not going to call you this afternoon.
okay.
It's going to be
Takes a few days.
a couple days. Yeah.
Flash them.
All right, some bad news. The North Carolina League of Municipalities, which is the pool that we use for our health insurance for our employees, not only health insurance, our dental and our vision. This is the time they send us a note that says, oh, by the way, this is what your premium increase is for the year. And I was expecting that. Instead, they sent us a message that they're dropping all coverage effective June 30th. So that puts us into a really tight time frame. We will have no coverage come June 30th unless we do something, which I will do. It's compounded by the fact that we're now in budget preparation, and this is the time, like I said, where I produce that number and we come to you and say, this is what our benefit package will cost, and do you want to fund it? It's kind of up in the air because they had a number of municipalities, quite a few, and they're immediately all in the same position we are, and we're all out shopping for the same product at the same time, and it has turned into a nightmare. So I'm not going to be able to have a number for you in time to produce the budget. So what Steve and I are doing, and Rebecca's involved, we're trying to get a bridge in coverage through a broker, and that can get us the same coverage for a short period of time while we can go out and do an RFP and properly bid and do our employee insurance and health care. The employees are concerned, as you might imagine, and we should be too as taxpayers, because this will not be same as last year with costs, I can assure you. But we will have coverage for the employees. I will have a number for you in the budget. It will probably be a bridge until we can, quote, buy some time to go out and properly do this. So what I wanted to just inform you of this. My plan is to try and get similar or the same coverage through the same companies, not through the league, which we lose the advantage of being in the pool. And we'll pay market prices for a short period of time until we can get an RFQ on the street and get some competitive pricing. But currently, all of the leagues, municipalities are in the same position as we are.
Is Affordable Health Care Act, is that an option?
It could be, yes. The state plan was an option until today, and the state plan has a 800, I'm going to say billion, it can't be that much, shortfall, and they've closed the plan. We're not eligible to get in there. So that was an option we were looking at and was pulled off the table today. Let's talk about Lake Buckeye dredging. So we will receive bids on Friday. Hopefully, we'll have at least 3 bidders. That's a very unique contractor. Got to come in and dredge the lake, meet all the requirements for the permit, which we have. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But we're going to receive bids on 3 o'clock on Friday. We do have a permit from the Army Corps. Can't explain to you why or how,
But you got it.
but it showed up. So we made many calls to many elected officials higher than the town of Beech Mountain. I don't know if any one of those made this happen, but this is the permit I told you about, where the Army Corps of Engineers, as we discussed the project, said, you need a permit for that, and it's not permittable.
Yeah.
So, so we have a permit, and we're moving full speed ahead. We're working with FEMA to expedite the approval process for funding. The debris site for dredge material is behind on schedule. You're going to annex that as we go through that process. We don't have all the environmental permits for that, so we're going to stage the dredge materials at Shane Park. And we've got a June 30th date that's targeted for the dredging to be completed. So that's a very short time frame, and it makes it very difficult to go to bid, get it approved by you, give a notice to proceed, get mobilized, get it dredged. And we talked about this, I think, Friday, but this has got to be the #1 priority of the town, is to get this lake back to a volume, so as we go into the summer and our summer residents get here, we have a sufficient amount of water. to that end, but you don't have to do it now, but before the end of the meeting, I'd like to request that you call a special meeting to award the bid that I don't have yet for Tuesday, March 18th at 9 o'clock. If we don't get 3 bids Friday, I'll cancel the meeting, or I'll call the mayor to cancel the meeting. But I'd like for you to before you end the meeting tonight, call a special meeting for Tuesday, the 18th at 9 o'clock. The sole purpose will be to award the bid that I hope to have before you, and the engineer's analysis and bid analysis by that
Can we
time.
do that right now?
Yeah, let's maybe do it now.
You can do
Yes,
anything
sir,
you want.
procedurally you may.
Okay, let's go ahead and do it now.
Yeah.
All in favor of special meeting on Tuesday, the 18th, Chief,
18.
18th at 9 o'clock.
at 9
Here.
a.m.? Need a motion to accept this?
Motion?
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Thank
Opposed,
you.
same sign, Chief.
Thank you.
Tuesday.
And the reason I need to do, the reason I'm asking you to do special meetings, I can't wait the 30 days for the next
Sure.
council.
Sure.
Chief, what
It's a
would be
big
the
deal.
recourse if you only get 2 bids? What would be the next step?
Well, we have to not open them. They're sealed bids. They would be returned to the contractor. We would re-advertise. After that advertisement, if we can accept a single bid. But we cannot we can't open bids unless we have a minimum of 3. This is due to the size of the contract. It's expected to be over $500,000. Has to be a sealed bid, and we have to have 3.
So we've got,
Marty, can you take care of that?
Which one?
Anyone?
And FEMA
So
does
we've got
expect a competitive process, so we have to show we've gone through that in addition to the state procurement.
so we got a public hearing meeting April the 8th, correct? And
Correct.
then we have a special meeting on
Next-
Tuesday, April the 18th at 9 a.m.
No, March.
I mean,
Next
March,
Tuesday.
March,
Next Tuesday.
yes, sir.
So I
March.
can call in on that, I'm working
Sure.
that day.
It should be very quick. I'll either have a bid for you to approve and a recommendation, or I won't. Let's move on to the water well we discussed last month. Just an update. The first analysis has been completed. We're now going to do the camera mapping of the well. I've authorized that. The analysis of the data indicates that something moved underground. And I'm not sure I understand it, but there's cracks in the bedrock and aquifer that refills it, and the crack or cracks that were at the bottom of that well have closed, and so our refill rate is not what it was when we drilled the well, and it's too early to tell if there's a solution and what that might be, but now they need to put a camera down the well, take a look at that space down there, 800 some feet down, and see if there's an option to either make it bigger, drill it deeper, or say
Adios.
adios. So let's talk about debris. The state,
Just back up on that. Would that be an insurable thing?
it's not. No.
Unless you can show it's caused by the hurricane.
Happened during a hurricane.
Well, we do have it on our FEMA list.
Yeah.
They're questioning it because we had indications of low flow before the storm. But something has occurred underground. On debris, the state extended the contract until September 28th, 2025. That's not a good thing.
We got 2 trucks running now.
So we negotiated with SDR, which is the contractor, the main contractor that we have, and we gave an extension through July 31st. And to account for late arrivals and continued debris, we still have debris being put out on the road, and as well as original debris that's not being picked up. And that contract through the state has been less than stellar for us to manage.
Yeah. In that regard, I see that town employees are cutting up trees back behind the right-of-ways. Is that on private property, or is that?
It is.
Right. Is that, how far is that gonna go in doing that?
Well, what we did is first determine what areas needed to be cleaned up. Wegling Way and the Parkway is a good example.
Yeah.
As you know, fallen trees on unimproved land is not covered by debris removal, so those trees would have laid there. So from an aesthetic perspective, we reached out to the property owner and asked them to clean it up. They said no. We asked them permission to enter onto their property and clean it up. They gave us that written permission, and I authorized that. And then we moved the materials for debris pickup.
So you move it to the curb and FEMA picks it up and
Correct.
disposes it, okay.
Correct. So I did that one for aesthetic purposes. The utility peninsula across from Charter Hills, that belongs to us and up towards the substation. So we again clean that up, move the material to the road for debris removal. You may have seen them there. At Lake Road in the Parkway at the communications building,
Right.
there is property that is town property and right of way. We cleared that as well, and some of those trees I'm sure were on the communications property. We cleared those, and immediately they were put into the hopper so they could be hauled away. So it's been a mix of things, but it's been predominantly us doing it for aesthetic purposes.
I'm fully in favor of it. It looks so much better.
I can't do it everywhere,
Yeah.
but that was some places that I had received, comments that needed to be cleaned up. Ditch and culvert cleaning is underway. This is a program that FEMA has authorized for us to do, although they haven't funded it. And what we're doing, we're exposing the culvert head and the bottom. We're determining if it's damaged from the storm, taking photographs before and after. There's over 600 locations of those. So we're not cleaning the whole ditch, and we're only exposing the culvert to do an analysis of that culvert. And then FEMA's they have said verbally, they'll reimburse us for that process, and then individually determine if the culvert will be repaired, replaced, or not. So you'll see we're all over the mountain with crews. We've hired some contractors. We have our crews out there, and it looks like we don't know what we're doing, but we do. We're at each culvert, and including side culverts, which are private culverts that belong to driveways. If they're in the ditch right-of-way flow, we're clearing those to document any damage.
I think that's important. I've had a number of taxpayers make comments about, oh, they're only doing 10 feet.
Yep.
Then we need a whole ditch.
We do need the
People
whole. We do need the whole ditch. We do need
Yes.
the whole road.
Yes.
But until I can identify a project that FEMA says will replace that culvert or clean this ditch, we're only doing what we have to do to get that process underway. So let's talk about roadways. As a reminder, we have 67 miles of roadways to maintain. And so Rory Ellington from the club, I was in a meeting with him. He goes, you know what that is? He says, that's if you leave town of Beech Mountain and you drive to the last light in Wilkesboro. That's 67 miles of roads. So I don't know a better way to visualize that, but if you start here and drive to Wilkesboro, through Wilkesboro, that's how many miles of roads the town is responsible for. So that's a lot of roads for a public works department. We are only making emergency repairs, spot repairs on an as-needed basis. Again, if we repair a road, it comes off the FEMA list. If we improve the road, it comes off the FEMA list. And I can do that. We talked about it, you told me not to, but I can do that to some extent, and then we run out of money. So we've got damage to almost every gravel road in the town. We have damage to most of the shoulders on our paved roads. Obviously, Charter Hills, we lost the whole paved road. So it's going to be a while before, Greenbrier is like a real road, or Chestnut, or I can name all the roads in town that are a problem. You get the emails as I do, Fox Scrape, Hollow. If it's dangerous, we're putting a cone out, which I also get a lot of heartburn on, and then we're going with some gravel and we're trying to make repairs, spot repairs, and we'll come back and repair it again and again and again. I'm trying to reduce the amount of dollars that we spend that we can't get reimbursed. So I can't repair 67 miles of roads without FEMA's reimbursement, and I can't do it until they inspect it and say, we'll pay for this or we won't pay for that. The first FEMA inspection on a road, I believe, is in April. And so it's going to take some time, and I want people to know that. Sewer plant, we talked about that. You approved the contract tonight. We're moving forward on that. Funding. No one's asked me how we're going to pay for any of this, so let me briefly tell you where we stand. We currently have $9.7 million of funding that's in hand. It's either in the bank or it's committed, but we've got $9.7 million in hand. I've got another $2.7 million that's pending in FEMA on two versions, and we expect, I got an email today that it's moving forward. So we're going to have $12.4 million to put towards recovery and repair. As I explained to you Friday, I'm going to use that to fix Lake Buckeye. That'll be the cash that we use to repair Buckeye, get it dredged, get the material moved out. We'll reimburse the town for the land purchase. We'll pay for the engineering fees. We won't spend all of that, but that's the pot of money that we have that we'll account for separately that we're going to use for repairs. And the first place we're going is to Lake Buckeye. So when you hopefully approve a contract next Tuesday, the funding's in place. We'll issue notice to proceed and we'll get that project underway.
But even if we had the full $27 million for repairs, it's gonna be several years before we're gonna be able to make those repairs in full, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, if we have cash in hand, such as Mr. Pudney is doing, you can proceed quicker with FEMA. If you do not have the funds, if you were a poorer municipality that had not planned ahead, you would have to wait on FEMA. They would conduct numerous inspections, would be willing to advance half of the money to the town to do that project, and then only reimburse the other half later. By being able to come up with these funding sources, it allows the manager to expedite these projects. Even though it doesn't feel like they're being expedited from a FEMA view, the fact that you have the cash up front to commit to them allows you to expedite them on their fast track.
I mean, the public doesn't view it as being expedited, but
No, sir. It's a matter
as
of
Bob has
perspective.
explained numerous times.
Well, I don't either.
Uh,
You know, I want things to be fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
But we just,
We can't afford to pick it out of pocket.
as I've said many times, a mistake now will cost us millions later.
Yes.
And we can't afford to rush into this and then find ourselves either not being reimbursed or, worse yet, giving money back to FEMA.
Through the audit.
And FEMA's fast track is a relative thing by all means. So you're going as quickly as you can, but you also want to make sure that you're not coming out of pocket yourself and that FEMA and the state will reimburse you.
We don't need to expose the taxpayers.
Certainly not.
Oh, we don't need to get in trouble with, and get below that threshold with, council of government.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
that's true, and again, the intent is not to use operating funds or fund balance to make repairs that we're not relatively certain we're going to get reimbursed. So this $12.4 million is actually additional cash on hand committed to the town that we'll use to begin this process, and the first one will be Buckeye. And I wish I knew how much the bid would be Friday, but I don't. We've estimated it, but I'm sure it'll be higher than we've
The
estimated.
Friday bid is just the dredging, right?
Just the dredging. All right, good news. The visitor center is open for business.
There you go.
So the contractor's working on the punch list. Could be a while. The paving will be replaced out front in its entirety as soon as the weather permits. And more importantly, I want to invite everybody to stop by the visitor center and see the new office over there and meet the staff. And it's really a good improvement. And the question came up about a ribbon cutting, and we need to dedicate the building to Elena Accardi. So that would probably be in June, July. Armando's putting that together, so we'll get that out to everybody. The new fire truck, the medical rescue truck, we call it 9501, is now in service. It's important to remind everybody that was funded 100% by the Dr. Murray Miller's Mountain Ambulance and Healthcare Foundation and private donations that we got at the farmer's market and things like that. So that truck, a little over $300,000, is on the road saving lives, and it was funded 100% by non-taxpayer money. So we thank Dr. Miller and the Mountain Ambulance and Healthcare Foundation. Last thing I've got, budget preparations underway. I'm meeting with the department heads this week to go through their analysis. Again, we're saving cash, particularly with the health insurance issue. We're going to really be sharpening the pencil on capital improvements and things like that. So we'll have something to you per the schedule, and just know that we're working that as hard as we can.
When's the next budget workshop?
Emily, I'm gonna look to you.
I think it's April.
If we get it and approve it.
It's in April.
Yeah.
Chief, we're in our general fund, our total revenue for the budget, it's like 11,500,000. And currently, we're at 90%. You think we'll exceed what we have budgeted for?
Revenue?
Yes, sir. With the trend that we're,
You know,
it's a moving target.
that's dangerous for me to say.
Okay, but it's gonna be close.
No, we're gonna be good,
Yeah,
but, you know, I don't know what tomorrow brings. I know what we
it's like
have.
putting you on the spot.
We're good right now.
We are good.
And if you look at your expenditures, every fund is well within the benchmark. I guess I should have done that as well. If you would turn to page 80 in your
80 or 83?
80. So 80 is the revenue and expenditure report through January 31st for the general fund. And as we talked about, Steve has made this brought it back in line so that you're looking at the actual operations of the town. The benchmark is 59%. You'll see that our revenues are at 67, substantially higher than the benchmark. That don't read too much into that, because November and December is when we bring in taxes, so that'll settle out as we go through. More importantly, the expenditures for the general fund were at 54%, 5% below target. And you know, that's nothing I'm doing. That's the department directors. They've been told to save cash, only expenditures that absolutely have to be made, and so that's reflecting in that expenditure. So we'll obviously monitor that and manage that, but that mayor shows us very healthy. The utility fund is similar. The benchmark again is 59. We're at 48 on expenditures. Yeah, that's 11%. That's really good on the utility. Sanitation, as you know, we were in the red last year. You made a rate increase to bring that in line. We're there, and we're managing that as we go forward. And then on page 83, Mayor, the big summary page that you were looking at, you know, we show as of the end of January a fund balance of $9.833 million in the general fund. That's about where we should be. I don't know that trend will continue as we go through, because our bulk of our revenues came in November, December. I think as we go through the next quarter, you'll see those get more in line with a trend. But I did want to bring that up, that Steve had brought the budget back into a true operational budget, so you can see the town operations, and then the $12.4 million that we just talked about is accounted for outside the general fund.
But when you first became town manager, you changed the format of how the numbers appear. And I mean, in my opinion, you can't be any more transparent.
Right there.
You know, as long as the numbers that what you put in is as good as what comes out. And the numbers are accurate that are going in. And it's so much easier being able to read and follow this format. Okay, council comments? Alan?
Yeah, I'd like to recognize Widener. Right there.
You don't have to do that.
Well, no, it's important because he's done the yeoman's work of really going out and developing these relationships with the state, local, state, and federal officials. And, we're getting the benefits of that hard work. And he's willing to do it, and I don't think the town has done that before previously. So thank you, Widener, really acknowledging your efforts, and appreciate what you're doing for us.
Well, it's a team effort, and we're all going to benefit from, no matter who makes the relationships that we're building. It's the town benefits. Just like today, it's nice having Dr. Lee King here. The town's never done anything like this. And being able to do some community outreach and get these folks involved and get on their radar, it's a big deal. But thank you, Alan, I appreciate it. Does the rest of the council feel the same way?
A lot of silence going on.
No comment.
It's that awkward silence.
All opposed? Heard that. All right, thank you, Alan.
Yeah, a couple things I'd like to touch on. Back a week or two after the storm hit, Chief Budney and a lot of the local businesses, we sat in this room and tried to figure out what just hit us and what we could do to bring the mountain back to a viable destination. And I must commend from, the leadership of Bob and the community businesses and what they were able to achieve. In December and January, we set records for occupancy tax collections by the TDA, which just shows that we were able to put out a product, and this mountain is a product, that attracted people, and they had the faith in us to show up and come spend their money. And I think that was, something that Bob started. It was pretty close. How was that, 2 weeks after the storm hit? Yeah, so
I
like
was gonna
that.
say 2 hours.
Well, but it just showed the foresight of this council, this administration, to get butts in seats is my favorite expression. And I gotta commend all that were involved in doing that, because Beach Mountain is back on the mountain and back on people's vision, and they're coming. So thank you for all that.
Mr. Stafford?
Go Lees McCray Ski and Snowboard Camp.
Yes.
So Stafford's son is out in Oregon. And
Mount Bachelor.
he is
They're racing right now.
he
Yep.
is on the Lees McCray ski and
Is that why you keep
snowboard
looking
team.
at your phone?
I don't have my phone. I purposely left my phone. So I
I've got
wouldn't-
the schedule on my phone.
So where is he in this picture?
There it is.
I
Bottom
think
right.
you, zoom in, because,
He's probably bottom right.
no, that's not him
That's
bottom
not him
right.
on
That
bottom
is
right.
him in the right corner
Oh,
with the mask on. I don't know why he's doing that.
He's cold.
he's practicing social distancing.
And I always have to be careful because the kid sitting there in all black with the camouflage hat on, I will mistake him for my son all the time. Oops.
Whoops.
That's why I said zoom in. I want to make sure I was pointing the right one. Thanks to the town, to the employees for their work in our maintaining our roadways, especially during these other little snow events that we had. One of which I don't think any of us had planned for. Didn't see it in the forecast. As it was said, we're a destination, and
as you can obviously tell by looking at the slopes, we're gonna make it to March 22nd, which is our scheduled closing day. We've done really well at that since I've been here. And 11 more days. No more night skiing, which I'm very excited about. So, thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Well, luckily for me, no more night skiing. I work from 9 to 5, which is great. Go Lise McCrae. There's my roommate sitting up there. I'm watching 3 dogs at the moment, which is great. March 22nd, end of spring skiing. This morning was great. Congratulations to the History Museum on achieving that goal of one of the best small town museums, and let's see them bring back some gold.
I'd like to recognize Fred Folk. Last Monday, or no, a week and a half ago, Fred called me. He voiced some concerns about the town, some things that he wanted to see fine-tuned a little bit, and it was a positive meeting. He had some constructive criticism, some things that he wanted to see done better. And I think that this council and town manager and myself were very transparent. Fred had some concerns, and it was worth a face-to-face conversation rather than over the phone or sending emails back and forth. We wanted to be personable. And, you know, Fred is passionate about Beech Mountain, and we're blessed that we have him as part of our team, and again, his passion for Beech Mountain. So I'd just like to thank Fred for all that he continues to do for the town. And that concludes today's meeting. Appreciate everyone attending, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much. This meeting's adjourned.
Contracts, the